Hey guys, what's up? I'm Adam from GeekRest.com, and this is
I'm Aaron from a comic shop.
Yeah, and this might as well be the Valiant Comic Power Hour because somehow we synced up.
It's
not a bad thing.
I mean, I just put on my shirt.
I do like yours a little bit better, but I got a breast pocket.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
You can put your calculator in there.
Valiant's the only company that can put a breast pocket on a shirt and still flies.
Yeah.
But, we'll talk about them later. This is the 7th day comic book news recap video. It's been a while since we did one of these, but we have kind of good excuses. There were a lot of creators coming to the shop.
Oh, yeah.
You were at HeroesCon.
Yeah, man, and we have that coming out really soon. The Jason Aaron interview, the Venditti interview.
It's out today.
And the HeroesCon panels. I ran the Green Lantern panel and the Image panel, and
moderating.
Cap ran the Dark Horse panel, and Cap went to E3.
Yeah.
I went to this retailer roadshow. We've been freaking busy, man.
Yeah,
we've been.
All the photos need to go up in one spot because it's been a busy several weeks. Yeah. But
it's not over yet.
One of the big gems that came out, Man of Steel. We're just going to talk a little bit about it because, everyone's talking about it. They're a little divided. But this was, as you know, Man of Steel, who, if you're under a rock, sorry, but this is DC's first real attempt at a cinematic universe.
Yeah.
And they did good.
At modernizing Superman,
Modernizing.
They say Superman doesn't do this, Superman doesn't do that, and they made the movie, the plot of the movie builds up to Superman doing what he does.
Right.
At the end, he has no choices in his mind, and this is a fresh Superman. This is his first, not only his first fight, but this is essentially the first time he ever threw a punch. Because all those flashbacks, it was him as a pacifist.
And
he's
fighting someone worthwhile of his strength. He's not just fighting some real estate.
Right. Well,
villain.
He wouldn't kill or unleash on humans the same way that an adult wouldn't beat up a child, a toddler. But a Kryptonian is another adult.
Yeah.
I would punch another adult in the face.
Him up.
For things that I would never dream of punching a toddler in the face for.
It's true.
Like a toddler pees on my shoe, I'd be like, oh, that's cute. A dude pees on my shoe, we're throwing down. He's another adult. Having said that, it was a fun movie. It was crazy.
Fun movie. A lot of people were complaining about, Superman wouldn't do that. There's so much destruction at the end of this thing. But I think in the bigger picture of things, when they move on to a sequel, and they are, you're going to see the ramifications of these actions.
He's going to become Superman. This generation is going to be endeared to Superman. They were there at ground zero when the man became super. When he had the worst day of his life, which was that movie.
Easily.
And then we were there, and then he builds into the inspirational figure that he will become. Going against Lex Luthor, trying to turn everyone against him as he rebuilds Smallville and Metropolis.
Popular.
That's going to be cool. So, the people that already love Superman, some of them, and I'm surprised by how many I've talked to actually like the movie, but some of them are like, I don't like it, this is not my Superman. And maybe it's not. But your Superman wasn't what was rejected by a mainstream audience. They sort of had to update him. And if they had to do this to get to a Superman more like an inspirational figure in the next two movies, wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah. But, and the comic book references, Mark Waid's Birthright is all over this thing. The visuals, especially those big scenes, I saw a lot of Shane Davis, his Earth One. Those big battle scenes.
They admitted to that.
And even some of the writing came out of Grant Morrison's All Star. Even in the trailer, you can hear
a whole monologue.
You'll give them something to strive to. It's Grant Morrison's writing, almost word for word.
And here's what I have to say: DC, you should have given Mark Waid a free movie ticket. Seriously, that's ridiculous.
On Twitter, right after that movie
ridiculous.
night, Mark Waid came on, wrote his own little review. Said his gripes, and some people were like, did you get any credit on the film? He's like, I didn't even get a movie ticket.
Yeah.
It's like Marvel invites me to the movies.
Yeah, that's messed up.
That's
I can get a free movie ticket.
Yeah.
But,
so,
that sucks.
Help your guys out, maybe credit them down the line. Back in the day, that would have worked, but now,
I love Mark Waid, biggest fan of all his work. And I agree with the points he made. I just think that the modern audience accepted this, liked this, it captured it, and hopefully they will incorporate a Superman that is inspirational after this. This is the man, and then he becomes the Superman.
Right. Then bring in his friends.
Yes.
That's all we're saying. But
Hawkman.
Go out and see it right now. Hawkman.
What? Come on.
It's good. It could happen.
All right.
And coming out of Man of Steel's success, all eyes, like I said, are on DC Comics. And Warner Brothers just lost Jeff Robinov, it looks like. No one knows really, like, industry heads, studio heads. It's not something we usually always talk about. But this guy spearheaded DC Entertainment.
Right.
Pretty
so
much.
It's not DC Comics, it's DC
Not
Entertainment.
DC Comics, but, Warner Brothers is, the big daddy of DC Comics.
And Levitz, the old publisher DC, was
Paul
out.
Levitz, yeah.
And they put in co-publishers because I guess they really liked that episode of The Office where they had co-managers.
It's like a trifecta of studio heads.
So,
but he's out, but like I said, he spearheaded DC Entertainment. He was responsible for the big push back in, I want to say, 2009, 2007, 2009. Basically the same year that Disney bought Marvel.
Right.
He said, we need to revamp everything. A lot of that trickled into the New 52, the whole launch of that. And, but, a lot of people, he basically started, what people say is that he brought the micromanaging to DC and Warner Brothers in the sense that a lot of the creators weren't as in the loop anymore. A lot of people weren't in the loop, producers as well.
Right.
Instead, so a lot of these decisions were made by some top tier guys, which didn't necessarily translate very well, for the fans.
A lot of corporate control, whereas Marvel, they're cheap, but they'll hire a guy and let that guy do his job.
Right.
There's not all these cooks in the kitchen. There's not all these high salaried people getting their little pieces in there that, you hire someone like they did with Iron Man or Whedon, and you have faith in them to just make that freaking movie, beginning to end, just make that movie.
And he had that with Christopher Nolan, which is why, as soon as he took off with Batman Begins, it was a success. The Dark Knight, through the roof. Now it's one of their biggest franchises, most successful franchises. And, of course, you also saw Nolan, on Man of Steel.
Right.
Like, he kept him in the loop. But now he's gone.
Who knows what it's going to mean for DC Comics, the publishing, of DC Entertainment? Who knows what it's going to mean for the movies? He had his share of flops, though, like Superman Returns, more or less. I mean, they didn't do a sequel. Jonah Hex,
Superman Returns.
And Green Lantern.
The elephant, the big green elephant in the room. And But the thing is also, you mentioned with Marvel, and they're kind of like cheap, but maybe not in the big picture. DC and Warner Brothers, Legendary Pictures is the one who finances their movies. They have an outside, finance, studio, and they've been hitting a lot of flops. Relationships are a little rocky because of that. I know with Legendary Pictures.
Right.
And but Marvel, they finance their own films. Everything's in house. So in the long run, they don't have bridges to burn. They're more of a solidified movie production studio. And with Levitz out,
And the weird thing about this is that this guy wasn't like kicked out. It's just
No.
what I read is his contract was just up, and there's no announcement that it's been renewed.
No.
So the speculation ensues from there.
They're not asking me to come back.
Yes. So essentially, am I going to show up and my desk is cleaned out?
Like when Paul Levitz was president of DC, you could tell because he was a creator and an editor, and they worked better. There was more goodwill among all the other creators beneath him. And
they kind of knew that regardless of the work for hire status, that they would get some royalties on some of their specific creations.
Right.
Like, Bane, for example, with Chuck Dixon. That was worked out. And Kilowog was worked out. Like, things they didn't have to do, because it's like, you just put a Green Lantern costume on some space pig. But no, it was Kilowog. He was the drill sergeant, and they used it. So, like Levitz, and I don't think it's just like, hey, let's give away some money to these creators because it's the right thing to do. It's the right thing to do because it keeps creative people happy and bringing their creations to you.
Right.
They'll keep bringing their creations to you as opposed to bringing them to Marvel. I mean, they have their own problems over there, or doing them themselves with Image or whatever type of creator-owned property.
Yeah.
What reason do they have to bring their A game of creative work in new concepts to DC if they don't have a Levitz there where they know they're going to be taken care of?
And these smart creations, they're coming into the comics, and the studios know that their money is made with the movies that are based on these comics. So, it's a little circle of life thing. Respect where it comes from.
I mean, we just talked about Man of Steel and where they lifted from Birthright and from Earth One and from All-Star. We just, this really does happen.
And all these creators are kind of like mum about it. They're like,
I still want to work for DC.
Face palms, a lot of face palms. But so who knows what's going? Hey, put Mark Waid in the big seat.
Hell yeah.
But what's kind of cool is that also like Jim Lee and Jeff Johns, like these guys were creators and they're moving up to the top.
Right.
So who knows? Maybe Warner Brothers, DC, they'll elevate a little further and
I
put them
just
in charge
talked
of a
to
studio.
Jim Lee for a little while, a few days ago, and he is a creative guy. He showed me the next issue of Superman on his iPad, and he talked about how creative teams mean everything in these comics, and he gets it. It's just he's just one guy amongst all these other,
right.
But Jim Lee gets it. Jeff Johns, of course, gets it.
Yeah.
Dan DiDio, sometimes he does.
Sometimes.
I mean, I think every exec has their new 52 story. Dan DiDio's was, we had this retailer roadshow, and when I closed, I was like, okay, I'll see you guys next year. And this one retailer said, yeah, if I'm still in business next year. And he's like, and that's when it hit me. We need to take this seriously. These people are gonna want to stay in business, and we need to do this new 52. We need to relaunch all this. So but
we'll see.
Who knows? But I'm excited for the DC Marvel type universe for their movies. That it's a shared universe because it's not a unique concept to Marvel movies. DC had a shared universe before Marvel had a shared universe in comics. DC had the first superhero team.
Yep.
DC had the first alternate universes.
Yep.
DC, let's do this.
This is in your DNA. You can bring it to the big screen, and with a vacancy, left open, opportunity,
and with so many failures,
comes in.
There's not all these characters tied up in other studios. You don't have the Fox X-Men and Fantastic Four and all that, and the Sony Spider-Man.
No.
There's nothing but a slew of flops and non-starts that they pretty much have access to all their characters.
Right.
So do it.
Let's make it happen.